Hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Friday, April 8th, 2020, and this is our weekly video, a look back at last week's eBay and CATAWIKI auction results. We're going to look at some things that sold up at Christie's this week and some upcoming lots, as we always do. It's been sort of a busy week, and we're noticing that the online-only sales that many auction houses are doing now are doing really well. It's a little bit of a surprise, but I'm very glad to see it. And we're going to go through some of it and show you what's going on the global member pages and on the newsletter page and all that. So let's get started. All right, first thing I wanted to mention was, is this it? We added something to the bookcase this week over in the research part of the Bidamount site. Most of you know where it is, but if you don't, you just come down here on the home page and click free auction catalogs and books, as many of you use them a lot. A lot of people use them. And what you're going to find on here is this. This is a really handy book that I found online as a PDF that somebody had published. It's the signatures for all the Satsuma that you're ever going to likely run into. I've never seen this thing before. It's got 500 names, 2,000 signatures in it. It's 190-something pages long, but just full of information like this. Dates, the marks, when they did them, the whole bit. So if you're, excuse the clicking sound, that's the page turning sound. Let me turn that off. There we go. So if you're a Satsuma or a Japanese pottery or porcelain person, this is the catalog for you. Alrighty, and it's over in the reference section right here. And we also added a couple of catalogs that we never got around to posting. We had gotten the PDFs for them a while ago, and not this far ago, but these are from Druid's auctions, some 2015 catalogs that we had, and we'd been meaning to put them up. We did put them up, so those are in the reference section today. And I got a number of emails last week. A lot of people like this book, the silver book on Chinese silver by Adrian von Furst. A lot of people are apparently using this because you got silver laying around, some Chinese silver. You can go look it up. This is a monster book. It's his life's work, 1,000 pages, and it's free. Just go over there and get it. And in last week's video, we included a link. If you want your own PDF copy, keep it on your phone or something, go to last week's video and you can download your own copy. Okay. And now over to this. We did a quick post over the week just for the fun of it on sort of a Chinese porcelain buyer's guide from auction houses, what to look out for. Many of you know this stuff, but it might be helpful to get a refresher, what you need to know, what you should look for, and just some basics on how to buy on the internet without getting yourself stuck with a bad copy. It's a little bit long, but it gets to the point. We talk about us, we talk about the other auction houses, and I hope you find it amusing, if not educational. All righty, now over here to last week's newsletter page. A lot of stuff sold last week, and the prices overall were very strong. I was really happy to see it. Qing-Period, as many of you know, had a sale that closed on Monday, Sunday night, Monday, depending where in the world you are, because he's over in the EU. Stuff did very well. We're going to get to that. And before we get into that, let's see here. What went on at CATAWIKI? This was a very nice little Kannon Bodhisattva Japanese example, about 40 centimeters high, roughly 16, 18 inches tall. Nice one. In its case, nicely carved, good detail. It looked like all the metalwork was there, and so on and so forth. I think it was probably a Meiji example, and it ended up selling for 600 euros. It was unreserved. It was one of these unreserved lots that we're focusing on. And a number of people have said they like that we're not focusing on too much on the reserve stuff, because a lot of it I think is hard to sell, and a lot of it is hard to buy. This sold last week. This was a dandy piece of Chinese Amari, but looks very Japanese. If you ever wondered how the Japanese Amari got started copying the Chinese, here's a Chinese Amari plate from the Kangxi period. And at a glance, many would think, oh, that's Japanese. No, that's Chinese. That's one of the old Chinese Amari patterns. Beautifully done, was adopted by the Japanese. But a good example, had some wear to the gilt, but as a real clear example from the period. It would be an interesting plate to own. And it went fairly reasonably, 220 euros. So if any of you got it, great. And then over to this. This I liked. This was a nice big, I like tankards. This was a nice big Chinese export tankard in that sort of stock pattern that you see often that they did with underglazed blue. But this was a big one, and it had that flanged out base, which is sort of unusual, and they usually typically only did these on bigger mugs to keep them from being tippy. And this one did pretty well, but it wasn't a crazy price. 345 euros, which is well within reason. It was about 18 centimeters tall, or 7 or 8 inches tall. It was a good sized mug. Nice example though, and it looked to be in very nice condition. And then onto this, the Kangxi dish with the boy, and then you have the precious object rim, brown dressing around the edges and all that stuff. And somebody picked this up for just fine, 210 euros. As I said, these are all unreserved. All right, so they're going to sell, and we'll have more of them this week. And then over to this. This was a very, very nice early plate. It had apparently a little bit of a rim repair or something somewhere, but it didn't seem to be too distracting. I could barely even find it. And it was a nice plate, Qing-Period, and again, $225 for this, and it was about 8 inches in diameter, but it had the very nice border. Let's see if we can get a better shot of that. It had the low relief sort of enware decorated border, but nice colors and an overall nice condition, I think. And 225 euros. That's not bad for that at all. That's actually a pretty reasonable price. And then let's see. Oh, this is on the global pages, live auctioneers and all that. There's a lot going on over here. There's a lot of stuff. This is a sale that Calobonti has up right now. But I wanted to point out a couple of things that happened this week that are pretty cool. These are up right now. This is Carlo Bontio in Belgium, and he puts together lots. And this is sort of an interesting lot. You've got 6 Chinese export 18th century tea caddies coupled with 2 nice early Japanese plates. But the estimate is very reasonable, 300 to 500 euros. All right. Do the math out on that if you're a dealer, okay? I think if you buy that within those estimates, you could probably make some money on it and get a nice piece for yourself for your own collection. And then on to this. This is quite a thing. This is, I believe is this Henman? Yeah, Leslie Heinemann has a sale coming up. It's in 47 days. It's a bit far out to worry about right now, but if you collect really good auction catalogs and of the great collections, mostly the ones where you have these fabulous single owner sales, this is a really hard to get set of books. This is from the T.Y. Chow collection, and it's 3 volumes, hardbound. The sale was done back in the early 80s, and highly desirable. It was done at the hotel in Hong Kong, the Firama Hotel. And back in the old days, as they say. And this is one of those epic auction catalogs, sets of catalogs that you might want to add to your library. I can't recommend it. I have these. They're wonderful, and they're from 40 years ago. But they're estimated $800 to $1,000. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they got there. But it's getting all three at once like this is very unusual. Usually you have to build your own set by finding one copy here and one copy there. Here they all are. Ming porcelain, early Chinese ceramic bronzes, and so forth. And this was back when it was called Sotheby Park Bernet, before they dropped the Park Bernet. All right, now over here. These sold at Christie's this week on the 7th. They're on the member pages still. We're going to update the pages over the weekend and get it all refreshed. But these were in there, and these were a really, really beautiful pair of Chinese reverse paintings on glass. Very, very fine pair. 18th century, great detail. Here you have a man sitting at a table with the blue and white plates, little teapot and so forth. And being tended to, and this little kid over here with that sort of devilish look on his face. And then over here you have a couple sitting, and they've got their dog and all this, and she's trying to get the dog to come away or something. You see some scholars' books. There's a nice Gu-form vase back here. Just an interesting picture, and they're wearing beautiful, beautiful silk robes. And the paintings did pretty well. They brought $32,000. Which is a good price. And this was an online-only sale, all right? And then after that at Christie's, they also had this. These were about 15 or so inches tall, nice pair of 18th century candle holders with of the maidens. Well-known export form, but not common. These are very rare. The colors on this looked really good overall. If you pull it in, you notice there's very little wear to the enamels. Great detail in the eyes. Then you have this thick black hair they put on them. And then these two beautiful, again, gu-form vases and so on. But overall, these look to be in wonderful shape. Okay, there's a tiny nick there, which is not unusual. It's in the black part. At any rate, they brought $22,500 online. All right, they were estimated at 20 to 30. So they did okay. They made their sort of toward the end of their low estimate. But I was very glad to see these do well. And they were Qianlong period. This is coming up. And I spotted this. This is on the global pages from Live Auctioneers. This is they call it an incense burner. I think it's a tea caddy, but it may have an incense element to it. It's Chinese lacquer, mid 18th century, obviously. I mean, mid 19th century, whenever these steam formed paddle wheelers came along. There are old paintings of these in Hong Kong, in Canton. They show them coming and going. And this one is all lacquered up. It's a couple of feet long. It's just a neat China trade item. Check it out. Get a condition report on it if you collect these things. They have it listed as an incense burner tea caddy. All right, but I like that. I think that is wonderful. And it's only estimated $800 to $1,000. And it wouldn't surprise me at all to see it go pretty well beyond that. But if it goes for anywhere in that range, it's a steal. It's a great thing. Also, the same auction, who is this? Abington down in Florida. The sale is in a couple of weeks. Is this 3 Chinese export paintings on paper? These are not pith paintings, all right? Because we often see the pith paintings. These are on paper, probably English paper. And but nicely done. A couple of minor cracks in the paper and so forth. It looks like here, or that may have been painted into the wall. No, that's painted into the wall. Included the cracks. Love that. And this is a very nice example, made probably between 1800 and 1820, somewhere in that range. But what's nice about it is that there are lots of things in here that collectors and dealers like to buy these days. Nice looking scroll over here. This Langyao vase. This little armrest garden barrel here that looks to be reticulated. Come on, let's pop it up a little. Yeah. And then you have these glazed pots on the side and these nice robes and these beautiful Chinese chairs, circa 1800, 1850 chairs. Just a really interesting picture. All three of them are carrying, I think, a pretty fair estimate, $1,200 to $1,500. We've all seen in the past that these pictures can bring anywhere from $800 to $1,000 a piece. So the estimate looks like it's sort of in the range of half their value. So if you're a Chinese export painting buyer, this is a nice set. They were bought at Stephanie Hoppin in London, who's a dealer over there. So you want to check those out. Those are nice. And then over to this, there is a very nice slip-decorated Korean Goryeo period Celadon bowl. This is a particularly nice one. It's got phoenixes running around it, clouds, and then these lappets coming out from the center. And I don't see any big dings, repairs, or problems with it. Because often these have gold lacquer repairs, which I don't mind particularly, but it does pull the value down a little bit. Here's a side shot of it. And again, all inlaid with the white paste around the outside. Nice crackle to it. Little glaze not applied up in here, but overall, it's sort of a nice bowl. Estimated $500 to $700, very reasonable. And that's at Heinemann. It's a nice looking plate. And she also has this. This is one of the most famous of all the Yamanaka liquidation, all Yamanaka catalogs are ever done. Yamanaka was a Japanese-owned company that was had stores. They were in business for a long time. The son decided to expand their company, and he opened branches in the United States. And it's an amazing story. It was a spectacular store. We've talked about them before in our other videos. But this particular catalog has a stunning history to it. This is the catalog that was issued by the federal government when Yamanaka was seized for liquidation following the bombing of Pearl Harbor, because there was a law implemented in 1917 that prohibited countries that we were at war with to operate a business within our borders. And Yamanaka hadn't done anything wrong. He was living here. It's just one of those things that had to happen. It had to be shut down because it was technically foreign owned. though they had galleries in Boston, New York, and Chicago. And they put together this catalog, the federal government did, and they mailed it out to people. And in it says, anything you're interested in, feel free to contact us on it, and you can take it home on approval. And it is an absolutely, the stuff that's in this catalog will stun you because they have it all sort of lined up on shelves and things like this. Here it is, the collection of Chinese and other Far Eastern art. The photography was quite good in it. And this is, and you notice right here, they talk about the alien property custodian, the United States of America. And that's what this was about. And this is some of the stuff. But when you go through it, you're going to see some great things. If you buy this book, a lot of the stuff that comes to auction these days has been traced back to this catalog, especially some of the major pieces. So it's if you're a book buyer, there's some good books coming up, and you want to check it out. It's on the global pages. So if you subscribe, go over and look at it. They'll be up there for a bit more. Now over to here. This is something that was on eBay this week. This is one of those nifty little guglets with Qing-Period Chinese Amari. Beautiful example. And we've seen several of these over the last few months. You may recall we had one that was damaged that brought $400 or so. We had one that was perfect that brought 11 or 12, 1,300, somewhere in there. Here's another one that came up last week, and it ended up selling. I think this was a very good buy. It went for $885. And it looked to be in quite good shape. All right, this was Migulari had this up there, but I think I think somebody got a good buy on that. That was nice. And then on to this. This was that Kangxi Famille Vert on biscuit, or Famille Noire on biscuit, seated figure of the Guanyin. She had a few issues. She was missing some of her fingertips, which a lot of you have seen before. You always notice that when you get these figures with fingers, for some reason the fingers get knocked off. They're vulnerable, I guess. And here's a view of the bottom. So forth. There's a hairline in the bottom and all that. And despite all that, it was a charming figure on a very lovely stand, too, I might add. And it ended up selling for $896 or 730 pounds, which was a perfectly fine price. It could have brought more, but a rather charming figure. And how big was this? Because I know somebody's going to ask me how big it was. 27 centimeters tall, so about 9 inches tall, something like that. Good size. Nice piece. And then over to this. Do you remember last week we talked about this? This is sepia decorated, crest marked, sort of a miniature tray or serving platter, but obviously very small. And I thought this was just charming. I just really did. I still do. And a very interesting form, small, very personal, with a nice interior scene of maidens on a terrace and an elder above and so forth. And how did it do? Did pretty well. It brought $694. If this plate had been bigger, it probably would have brought less. But because it had a nice small size, made it really interesting, quite evocative. I like that. And then over here to this was the Kangxi barrel form teapot. And I included this because I like stuff like this. I like these pieces when they remodel them. I have a big Kangxi Blanc de Chine faceted pot that's got repairs to it like this. I like it. But this was a nice example. Very well done. You can see the handles have been replaced, but they put on this sort of homemade iron handle. And I think it's charming. No, it isn't worth as much if it was perfect. I get it. But I just like it. If it was perfect, this was a $1,200-$1,500 teapot easily. And as is, with damages and replaced handle, it still brought $712. Maybe it's a $2,000 or $3,000 teapot looking at it. Yeah, it could be. It's a nice looking thing. I'd need to see what it looks like all screwed together at whole, but a nice one. It's barrel form, makes it interesting. And then onto this, the Kangxi covered wooden pot. This was a rather nice vase, and it looked to be 18th century or Kangxi of the period. It's hard to tell from some of his photos, but very well done. Nice shape, nice scene on it, and it did quite well. It brought $9,950. Not a huge surprise, though. It was a Kangxi thing. And let's see, how big was this? It was probably decent size. Yeah, it was a foot tall. So it wasn't a little one. It was a nice size one, but it's not a great big one. But the design on it, I think, was quite unusual, and it did very well. And then over to these. These were listed as Qing-Period. And I put them up because I don't think they're Qing-Period. I think they're Republic with these bats. This style of bat was came into use during the Republic period. You didn't see these during the Qing dynasty that I can recall, but nicely done. Sometimes these bats were applied to the rims of plates or put on little bowls like this, and these are a nice looking pair. They have these red export export seals on them, because whoever exported them also thought they were probably Republic period, because if they were Qing, they probably wouldn't be allowed out. At any rate, the pair of them did well, though. They brought $2,271, and I suspect it's because enough people recognized what they were, and they're sort of rare. They're sort of rare, and to get a pair of peach cups with bats on them is pretty great. Pairs are always good. You know, I always say that a pair is worth 3 times the price of a single, typically, and so that would make sense. One of these would be worth $700 or so, $700 or $800. A pair of them is going to bring a lot more. So it was desirable, nice looking, but always leave a bid. Remember that, always leave a bid. And then on to this, the transitional period ewer. It was a nice one. As I mentioned, it had some glaze off of it here and here, but still a very nice example. And it ended up selling for $2,457 or 2,000 pounds on the nose. And this was a seller over in the UK. And then on to this. This was something that Qing-Period had up. He had some nice porcelains last week. I hope you took a look at them. This is a nice charger, just 39 centimeters in diameter, and but nice looking pattern on it. And it ended up selling for $1,900. But pretty example, no problems with it, and well painted, well decorated. And then over here to this. This was that just a little over a foot wide Kangxi Mutai bowl we had talked about last week, that I mentioned it because I liked it so much because it wasn't worn. And if you look in the middle here, often this type of bowl with this rim where everything is sort of on the surface enameling, they get worn away, they get scratched. In the center of these are often scrubbed out or worn down. This one was in nice condition, and it ended up selling for $2,313. Typically these, if they're a little bit worn and all that, they bring about half that. This one did very well because of the condition. Its condition was crucial here. And then on to this beautiful horseback Kangxi dish, or bowl, really. But market period, a nice border on it, very elegantly painted, nice use of negative space on it, lots of shading in the different aspects of the blue. You have a bannerman up here of a woman arriving on a horse and all that sort of activity, just nice. This did well. It brought $2,600, but it was market period. So I don't think it was by any stretch of the imagination a big price. If it had a Chenois mark on it, it probably would have brought a little less. But I think with a Kangxi mark, this was a particularly good buy, as long as the condition was as good as it looks. And it looks to be in awfully nice shape. And it was 10 inches in diameter. It was not a small piece. This wasn't one of those 6 or 7 inch pieces. This was 10 inches, dinner plate size, for $2,600 on the nose. All right. And then over to this was the Gwangju dragon dish. Nice one, looked authentic, no problem with it. It's a fairly common type. It's not an extremely rare type of dish. It's imperial porcelain done like this was sort of for general use, but still very, very nice. And it did great. It brought $6,600, market period piece. There you go. And then on to this, the 43 centimeter tall, or, what does that work out to? About 17 inches or so. Enamel decorated, sort of Kangxi style, but 19th century, but beautifully done. And this had a lot of interest in it. And it ended up selling for $2,738. And I think it's mostly because the colors were so good on it. The colors were very, very attractive. I liked it. And then over to this, the Ming Bronze. Nice bottle-shaped bronze. Here's a picture of the underside to it. Looks like it might have had a little bit of lead or something, lead work done in here, but a nice old one. Good surface on it. There's your patina, beautifully done. Nice key fret upper and lower framing. The central design, and it went fine. It didn't bring a crazy price. $536, and it was just a hair under 10 inches tall. I think that was a decent buy overall. Decent, very decent. All right. And now let's take a look and see what happened, what's coming up. How about that? All right, there. This is closing on Sunday. This is a very, very nice late Ming bowl with a single floating immortal in the middle holding up branches of flowers on them. I like that sort of loosely drawn diamond alternating, dark and light outer border. And here's a picture of the bottom with the Wanli Jiajing mark. It's hard to tell by that picture. But at any rate, what does he say it is? Because it looks like one of the strokes is missing off the thing. Blue and white dish marked. He doesn't say what the mark is. That's interesting. Well, at any rate, closes in a couple of a day. Closes Sunday. It's up to $500. It'll probably double that, but it's a nice looking dish. And then over here, this is on CATAWIKI. This is a really cool thing, actually. This is a piece of Chinese 18th century porcelain, and it's got a later handle on it. Obviously, the old handle got knocked off, but it's based on a metal form, probably a Middle Eastern metal form, and rather interesting. All right, even though it's missing parts, and we'll see how that does. And it's up to $145. Closes on Sunday, so keep your eyes on that. It's over on CATAWIKI. It'll be on the newsletter page. And then ceramics and collectibles. The folks over in the Netherlands have this up. Nice looking 17th century ewer. It's got a couple of nicks on it apparently, but overall a good example. That closes coming up on, when does this close? This closes on Monday. It will be in the newsletter page, so come over and subscribe to the newsletter page if you don't already. We'll send you the notice when the page gets updated each week. And then on to this. This is in there, and I know a lot of you are going to notice this. Is that this is it's titled as a Chinese plate, early 19th century. It is not Chinese. It is a very nice piece of Japanese arita, though. It has a tiny little nick up here out of the rim. All right, that's all I can see wrong with it. But the decoration on this is very, very nice. It's elegant. Here's a picture of the back of it. Nice looking, probably 18th century back, Y-shaped spur marks and all that business. And here's the rim. Oh, there's the fire department going by. And we'll see how that goes. So if you collect Japanese arita and you like a nice early one, this is it. It's not 19th century. I believe this is an 18th century one. And it closes on Sunday. So check that out. And then over to here. Republic Period porcelain book, Simon Kwan. This is a pretty desirable book. Somebody, who is this? iRare has this up. I don't know why he's selling it. It's a good book. But if you like Republican porcelain, Simon Kwan is a whiz on this stuff. It's a good book. And let's see, any good information you need to know. He's selling off a bunch of them. This is a limited edition of 1,000 copies. And it's about Republican porcelain. It should do very well. Right now, it's got just one bid, 2 days to go, so you might snag it for under $200 or $300, which would be fine. And this is the Muwen Tang collection series. Very, very nice. And then onto this gilt and enamel boxes on there right now. It's just a very, very pretty box. And I'll be curious to see how it does. Looks like a lovely example. It's probably early 20th century. They didn't have a mark on it, but it's rather attractive. That'll be in the newsletter page this week. It's gotten 11 bids in the first couple of days. It's already up to $500, and I suspect it's going to grow some legs toward the end. But check it out and see how it does. All righty. And that's it for the week. And thanks for watching. And if you like the videos, give us a thumbs up. Share them with your friends. Somebody asked me if you can share these videos. Yeah, you can. There's a share tab. And if you want to throw them on Facebook to share with somebody or do something, just go ahead and do it. I don't care. And or put it on your own website. And it's fine with me. But give us a thumbs up if you like them and make a comment and so on and so forth. And we're working on some other videos, and hopefully we'll get them up for you next week. All righty. Have a wonderful weekend. I just heard it might snow here tonight and tomorrow or some nonsense, but it is New England, so that's the way it goes. But it was very lovely yesterday. All righty. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.